I guess I'll die out here with a hammer and a beer. A hammer. Remember, we gotta get the dictionary out. The hip hop to country dictionary out.
Hip hop to country dictionary is so funny. Actually, though.
Yeah, because I'm like, because that means something different in hip hop.
Yeah.
Right. So you gotta get the hip hop to country dictionary out. It's like he's actually carrying around a hammer.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how the album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, hit that like button, leave us a comment, and let us know how wrong we always are. And of course, make sure you're subscribed. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather, and we are here with His Royal Highness, aka The Bunny, King Grant.
What's happening, people? We're back this time. So Zach Bryan, the great American bar scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think people who have been listening to the Album Mode podcast for the past 2 or 3 years don't think that we would have arrived at this spot. I don't think.
I think if they listen, they wouldn't be surprised because we've taken a bunch of left turns. There's nothing. I think the thing that we really haven't done yet is like a Spanish language album. You know, that's probably the one, like, I think big thing we have left to do.
We didn't do Moto Mami by Rosalia? I don't think so. No, we didn't.
We didn't do Moto Mami. But I think other than that, we've, gone across the ocean, gone across languages, gone across cultures.
True.
So if you are listening, I think they know what kind of versatility we have.
Yeah, shout out to me for suggesting that we review New Jeans, and that was legitimately, I think, the most or second most listened to audio version of the podcast, which was one of the more, I would say, controversial internally when I was suggesting it.
Was it?
It's like, oh, it's an EP. I don't know if we want to review EPs. Also, it's like, who really listens to New Jeans like that? I'm at a barbecue. Nobody's heard any of their songs. You did say that. So
Okay. I said that.
So I'm like, no, so you're right. We have bounced around. This is going to be our second country review this year. I'm not sure about ever. I would have to really dive into the archives, but this is the second one this year. I remember I did suggest Casey Musgraves earlier this year. So there's been a slight country streak among Album Mode.
Yeah, and I would love to see what happens next time we have to do a vote and there's a country album. But Casey Musgraves came in last in every single poll we did that week. And I know you were certain that the white women contingent was strong and would vote, but they didn't show up to the polls.
No, they didn't.
So I would love to see the next time country is in one of these polls that we have, how they do.
Yeah.
Because their first time in the polls didn't do well, but this time they went unopposed.
Yeah.
So
before it was their first time on the ballot. This time nobody else ran, so they're in there.
I think this is an interesting one for us because we have not done any Zach Bryan music before, and he's been pretty prolific with dropping music.
Yeah.
So I find it pretty interesting that he's someone who kind of popped off on the internet, which is something we cover a lot. So we haven't covered any of that with him. We haven't covered any of his past albums, so I thought that pretty interesting. So we're really jumping in a little bit late. This is his 5th album, and we're only now getting to Zach Bryan. So Zach Bryan, this is a formal apology from Album Mode. You fit a lot of the criteria for us to cover you before. We finally got there, but like they say, better late than never.
Yeah.
Never late is better.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we're doing The Great American Bar Scene by Zach Bryan. This is something that I would be honest with you, I was a little bit nervy about because my history with country music is checkered.
Yeah. Right?
I mentioned it before on the pod. Grandfather listens to country music literally 24/7. Used to spend a lot of time with my grandfather as a kid. So I've been listening to, it's just like, it's kind of just like, it's like being like a sleeper agent almost. Like it's been embedded so deep down that like it has to almost like trigger and go on for me. And then I'm like, I know exactly what this person's trying to do, So that's what it's felt like for me with Zach Bryan, where listening to this album, The Great American Bar Scene, I felt like I resonated with it like almost immediately when I first listened to it.
I felt the same way. I think just 2 things about him. I think, sounds more of what people think of when they think of country.
Yeah.
When we did Shabuzi, I think Shabuzi is more of a new age idea of what country is. I think if you're asking the average music listener, what does country music sound like to you? I think Zach Bryan is a big encapsulation of that. But you told me about your country roots. Let's run back to my country roots as well, because there was a time I listened to country more often than I should have been, honestly. And it really reminded me of kind of the feel that country music gives you. And I think when you talk about, feel, energy, themes, that's a big part of this project. I want to know what you thought about the single before we get into the lyrics, because after hearing this project, I went back and I said, what were the singles? Did they get it right? Mm-hmm. Pink Skies, Purple Gas, Better Days, and Memphis, the Blues. Did they get it right with the singles? Was there different singles they should have chosen? How do you feel about that?
I think for Purple Gas, I think is probably the best single for the way when I'm listening to it, just because of that collaboration with Nolene Hoffman is really, really good. Like the trading of lyrics throughout the song is basically a duet. And like, the verses are sometimes like cut in half and like they trade after every bar or after every, lyric and stuff like that. Thought it was really good. I think Nolene's voice is fantastic. Strong Dolly Parton vibes. Extremely strong. Yep. So I thought when I first heard it, I was like, is this Dolly Parton? And I was like, no, it's a different person. But I thought that it was fantastic. I thought that was really good. I also liked the country, like this was like uber country aesthetic. Like they're talking about farming.
Yes.
So I thought they were talking about weed at the beginning, but I remembered.
Wishful thinking.
We're talking about, we talked about hip hop where we're like, sometimes the music, like it's its own language. And I felt on Purple Gas especially, I'm like, okay, I need to get the translation book, get the thesaurus, get the, get the hip hop to country dictionary out, because we're doing different shit here.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think that collaboration, probably my favorite of all the collabs on here. I think their voices work well together. I would say that you said it right. 1 out of 4 for the singles, because I had other songs on here that I liked more as singles. Yeah. But I do think there is a kind of a tone to his music where almost any of these could be a single. It's whatever fits whatever you like. That's kind of how it goes. So I don't think there's any wrong answer here, which is rare for an album where you're like, there's no wrong single here. But I do think there are songs that are better as singles. When we talk about the lyrics, I want to talk about the title track, The Great American Bar Scene. Now, like I said before, I'm not a Zach Bryan fan. I had to do my deep dive. I was on his YouTube. I was watching some of his old interviews. And I have, a Zach Bryan fan in my life. And I asked them, is he always on this America is the greatest country of all time type of vibe?
Is that what you're getting from him?
For sure. Okay. For sure. Is he always on that type of vibe, or is that new? And I feel like I am a little sensitive to it because I've been watching The Boys. If anyone's watching The Boys right now, it's given very much, this is Homelander's favorite artist. And I asked that because...
No, more Firecracker. Firecracker with Zach Bryan.
Yes. Yeah. And I asked that because before even going into learning about him as a person outside of his music, halfway through the project, I said, there's no way this guy didn't serve in some kind of military. Yeah. I look it up, I did research, finds out he was in the Navy. And for me to kind of get that sense from his music, I said, yeah, the vibes are strong with this one. And on the title track, Great American Bar Scene, he sets the scene for kind of, what he was up to, what he's been doing. And this is the kind of scene that I feel like to a certain group, a certain demographic, you know who you are, you know who you are not. This is a vibe. And to someone else, it's like, cool, don't care. On verse 1, he says, I lost my money to some dirty old bookie. Way up in Philly, he was a bad man. But you can bet your life on the table that when you've got yourself a bad hand. So I went and got my good friend Mickey, and we made ourselves a bold stand. Wound up bleeding on the bar floor, and we don't bet on ball no more. Where the bets are tough and bartenders mean, the great American bar scene.
Good double entendre in that. We got my good friend Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good one.
No, that's a good one. And I think that there's two things in this that I noticed. One, when the bets are tough and the bars are mean, like those are two things that in a normal case would be negative.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want these bets to be tough. You want your bartenders to be nice and warm and welcoming. But that's part of this Americana theme that's going on over this project of we like the tough, we like the mean, we like the hard things, we like the rugged energy.
Yeah.
So for that to be something that's spun as a positive, that was like, okay, this is definitely we're in the right place with this. And then you brought up the double entendre with my good friend Mickey.
Yeah.
Made ourselves a bold stand. I think the main thing is how drinking and talking about alcohol is different on this project from many projects that we talk about. It's not necessarily has to do with partying. Mm-hmm. It has to do with a good time. And it's like we had fun, we drank, we got drunk.
Yeah.
But it's not the idea of I'm getting bitches or I gotta be plastered. It's just more like this is part of the fun.
Yeah, I think the way he views his entire album is like release. Like it's almost everything is like being expelled from his body. Even for him, like when he makes first of all, he's like great with he's really good with imagery, bro.
Yeah.
He's like that song that you were just talking about, the Great American Bar American Bar Scene is basically every verse is like a vignette, basically. And it basically is just painting a different picture. And I think that the release comes through a lot of those songs, even when he's painting like a picture of like a different person. So this is on Way Back, right? This is my second favorite song. Boons is my number one, not even a question, right? But the Way Back, right? This also, it's like a sister song to Boons, almost like a beat switch a little bit to it, right? And it goes, this is in verse 2. Token, he's talking about a woman that came into his life and is also exiting his life. Token poison to some killer song, your old man's Trans Am in Kodachrome, bumper sticker to the back right, state champs 83 through 85. She's smoking cigarettes in the kitchen. Tom and Jerry's on in the front room television. She always sat under the oak tree saying, God, I miss the old me. God, I miss the old me. So that imagery of like that, what that person is, he never describes their actual physical appearance in that verse, but I could picture what that person looks like. I feel like I also know that person or met that person in real life in high school or something like that.
Yep.
So I think that his ability to like craft these characters, craft these images, these scenarios is amazing. His songwriting is so good. And even his like ability to even rhyme in certain ways like is just something that I find like really fascinating because the way his rhyming is, I'm like, this is not really like country rhyming. Like I feel it feels a little bit closer to hip hop rhyming when he'll do half rhymes and stuff like that.
And making things rhyme that don't really rhyme.
Yeah, he does half rhymes and I'm like, that's not really a country thing. That's more of a hip hop thing. So I think that his songwriting is really strong, like super strong.
That was my second set of lyrics, literally the exact same section from the exact same song. And I'm happy you highlighted it because I think his songwriting is so strong all over this project. And listening back to his past work, I see that's a through line basically throughout his work. That's kind of how he got here in the first place. Yeah. And it made me think of, he is a country artist who, different than Shabuzi, who we reviewed a couple weeks ago, as he's more of the artiste. And I think that like that is something that is part of why he is where he is and why he's been so popular.
It's so funny you say that because he was in the Navy. And I think in one of his interviews, he's like, yeah, I thought I would be in the Navy until I was dead. Yeah. Like I never thought I would be a musician. So to go from a person that serves in the military, like serves in the armed forces and is like, hey, I'm actually just going to become a musician now with a guitar and be like so prolific at it is actually incredible.
And I think that's why it is more authentic and it feels more authentic is because of, this is not, I've been doing this since I was young. I've always wanted to do this. It was like, this is just how he felt, where his heart led him, so to speak. And we don't have that many artists like that anymore, period. Like, our artist now is always some kind of like long story. They've been trying at this for a long time. they've gone viral maybe, or they're an industry plant.
Yeah.
So a story like this is really like an older story. This is how like some older artists had stories like this. So I think that's part of it, is like you see that in his lyrics and the things that he tries to, I guess, show us visually, because he's 28 years old talking about smoking cigarettes in the kitchen and Tom and Jerry's on the front room television. I don't think he was alive for that, you know. State chance 83 to 85.
Yeah, he was not alive.
He was not alive for that. And so the scene he's setting, you talk about, you can see it. I like see it too. We weren't alive for that. And so that's how good the imagery is like this scene that none of us were around for. Some shows that some people listen to this, they never have seen Tom and Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
They maybe know of it, but were they actually allowed to watch it?
Classic show.
They're probably not.
Yeah.
Cigarettes in the kitchen. Smoking cigarettes inside is not a thing that's been a thing in our lifetime.
Also around your kids.
And so I think that the scene he's setting in this, he does such a good job that didn't even cross our mind.
Mm-hmm.
No, it never was like, where's he getting this from? Is this authentic?
Yeah.
None of that was even a question. It was like, no, whatever you're painting picture, I see it. So I'm happy that you highlighted the way back.
Yeah. So then there's also Boons, which is my favorite. Like, Boons is I think the first time I was like, let me replay the song. Okay.
Look at you liking this slow song.
Here's the thing. Okay.
Are you feeling feelings now?
I love that you said that, because there's obviously a reputation of me not liking slow songs. This is an extremely slow album.
Yep.
Super, super slow. It's an hour. It's over an hour long. It's like an hour and 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly too long. But there are songs that I think I mentioned. The Great American Bar Scene is 3 minutes and 30 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
That felt like it ended too early to me when I listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
It ended abruptly, and I'm like, bro, where's the rest of the song at? And then I looked at the timer, and I'm like, wow, it's already been 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So I think this is more going into the production, but I actually think the slow songs are his best songs. The slower the pace is actually the best version of himself.
Say it ain't so.
Boons is a good example. This is basically ties both of them together for me.
Mm-hmm.
Where Boons basically is about to just, he literally says in the hook, let me die out in the boons. It took me 13 years to bloom. They broke up, but he's all right. We'll be in town till late tonight. I'm dying in the boons, right? And I hate a hungry crowd. Worst of them all talk the loudest. I guess I'll die out here with a hammer and a beer. A hammer. Remember, we gotta get the dictionary out. The hip hop to country dictionary out.
Hip hop to country dictionary is so funny. Actually, though.
Yeah, because I'm like, because that means something different in hip hop.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to get the hip hop to country dictionary out. It's like he's actually carrying around a hammer, and a beer, just dying in the boons. Right. I love his like I mentioned before, the release. He's just like, fuck it, bro. Like, all this other shit, just leave me outside. I'm gonna go die in the woods. Mm-hmm. I prefer dying in the woods than going anywhere else. Like, I'm done, right? And I love that release, but also because it's so slow, it's also like he's like laying in the grass, just like wasting away, just like, let me die here.
I think that this is such a different, I guess, tone in terms of what pop music has been in all genres. And it reminds me, I went to Sydney, Nova Scotia a few weeks back, and this kind of production is what we heard a lot in the bars. Mm-hmm. And everyone was very impressed, and they said, is Sydney, Nova Scotia the deep south of Canada? That's an aside. But I think that the difference in his lyrics and his music is there's not this search for fame. And I think that almost in all genres of pop music, you're talking about this wanting to be bigger, wanting to be more famous, wanting to achieve more. There's almost none of that on here.
Yeah, almost a rejection, actually.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes his lyrics so refreshing is there's still substance abuse, there's still partying, there's still drinking, but it's not in the idea of I'm living it up. This is what it is. It's like, I want to be left alone. I just want to be calm and relaxed. Nobody bother me. This is my America. This is what I want. Mm-hmm. And I think that is basically not where music is at a whole anymore. So we talk about his background and his story and how he came into this and his lyrics. It's like he's an anomaly in that sense because even in country, there are a lot of artists who it's like, I want to blow up. I want to grow. I want to do this. Mm-hmm. not anywhere on here. He is saying, leave me the fuck alone. Like, I don't want to talk to none of y'all. Me and my girl, me and my hammer.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Actual hammer, though.
Me and my actual hammer.
Get the Stanley out.
Get the Stanley out. Imagine that's those were his bars. Get the Stanley out.
Get the Stanley. Somebody should say that. Yo, in a rap lyric, if somebody said "get the Stanley out," that shit would be so fucking funny.
Oh my! Right?
Get the Stanley by Stanley
Shabuzi.
Smith and Wesson. I'm here dropping bars, yo.
Come on, take Demar's bars. These are free. This is free game right now.
Gunna, I'm right here, bro.
Oh my god,
I'm right here.
I think production wise, he said not a lot to talk about, but I do like his production on here because I think that's what makes his album so listenable, even though it's so long. Because this album is slow and long, and when on albums like that, that's night.
Yeah.
And one person who did this well, I think it was 2023, maybe 2022, was Kali Uchis. And we were raving about her project of how it feels like you're melting and things are slow, but still somehow very listenable. And he has a lot of moments on here where he does that. And I think as a music nerd or a musician myself, there were some moments on here where I was like, yeah, the musicians I think really love Zach Bryan. First of all, he plays all these instruments himself. I think that's a huge part of it is like he's on the production basically on every song. Yeah. And so I think that when we talk about the lyrics, it's like someone with that lyrical ability to produce as well, that's very rare. Very rare. Actually. Like when we talk about someone like Taylor, how we love what she does lyrically, not on the level production-wise.
Yeah. Also, Jack Antonoff is like doing most of her production too.
And that's the difference is this is him. No, when I was on his YouTube, going through my YouTube deep dive, he's playing the guitar, playing the keys, playing the drums. And 28, one of my favorite songs on this project. 28 is one I thought would have been a single.
Yeah, that felt a little Taylor Swift-ish to me, that song.
That's why I thought it could have been a single. I thought there was some crossover there. But those violins at the beginning, I think really, really set the tone. And I think like that's an example of him creating a rhythm with an instrument that's not percussion. And those violins at the beginning, it takes you into the song where you're like, okay, my heart rate is up, the rhythm is up, I'm ready to go. And then those brushy drums kind of in the middle, add a texture to it where it's like, okay, we've picked up the pace a little bit, but we're still kind of at this waltz. And I think that his voice, you said, does great on the slow production. I have that in here as well, especially on Like Ida. Like there's a certain tone in his voice when he sings these slower songs that I'm like, his voice shines a lot in those moments.
Yeah, I think, again, those songs that are slow are the best songs. I think that Oak Island is probably my least favorite just because it minimizes his vocal ability, kind of minimizes his writing, right? And there's more of this, there's more of a highlight on basically like it's almost like a rock country song, which I feel like it is neutering everything else that is really good about him to highlight this, guitar and like a guitar solo at the end, all this type of stuff. So I'm like, I think that the production, when it's minimalistic, guys, I'm saying this genuinely, when this production is minimalistic and we're just doing mostly guitar, it's the best. This is the best version of him. When we're trying to scale it up, I think it removes too much of what makes him amazing. Right. And I think Oak Island is like one of the examples of that. I will say, I don't hate him with the piano. I like him on Bass Boat. Yeah. I think it's Bass Boat.
Yeah, Bass Boat.
That like just like tickling, just literally just tickling the keys to intro to outro in between the verses. I think it brought this like almost like this like wondering type of feeling to the song, right? I think that he is having that piano basically just like kind of just like it's like almost like dangling. It's kind of, you know what it kind of reminds me of actually? Like wind chimes.
I was gonna say it's very much like chimes.
It's kind of just like wind chimes like in the background, but they're piano keys. And they're kind of just like dressing everything that he says, but like very much out of the way. It's like just like a highlight on everything he says. So I think that is really good. I think I would like to hear more like what that sounds like or more what that would be like for him with that type of like piano work because it's so skeletal. But yeah, I think I like the production. I like the production, skeletal production with the guitar. Guys, I'm a changed man. It's 2024, okay?
Wow, you are a changed man. Yeah, I can't believe I'm hearing this, but obviously I agree with you. I think like this to me is where he does his best, but I don't think he's bad on the more upbeat.
I don't think it's bad. I just think it's not as good.
It's not his best, but I think his voice, what makes this project work is that he's not only singing in one voice.
That's
I
true.
think he actually does things vocally where you're like, oh, this is like a different tone from him. A song I think of a lot is American Nights.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, if you wanted to know which country he loves the most, I think
Wait, the Great American Bar Scene didn't give you an indication of.
we will get to that. I got some thoughts about that. We'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But American Nights, I think the guitar stringing along on that song, it works.
Mm-hmm.
It works very, very well. And then this is something that I think he has maybe not enough on this project, is the harmonica.
Yeah,
it comes in at 35. It comes in again about a minute and a half in. And those are the things that make this album so listenable, is those breaks where there's a violin solo or a guitar solo or a harmonica solo. How many albums have we had solos from 3 different instruments on all these songs? Like, as much as this production here is less complex than other albums,
Mm-hmm.
something like that to me feels more complex. That's a structure thing that he's doing there. And this is where I realize his understanding of song making structure is top tier. Absolutely top tier.
Yeah.
And to have the harmonica come in and lead us into the chorus, which is slower than the solo in a sense, like genius. So I love American Nights of production on there. I think that he does a good job of some of these songs that are very simple, dressing them up with production.
Yeah.
And in a way where it's, again, he's not doing these crazy stacks over top each other. It still is very simple, but I think the idea of this is coming in next, let's lead into that directly. Let's not make it a jump scare.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, maybe not stack, but overlap of a lot of things. Like you'll hear like a guitar and then like the harmonica like starts right where
it's an actual blend. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that even on Northern Lights, where it's like, I think it's like 2 different guitars that are happening at the same time, or maybe it's a guitar and a banjo.
Northern Thunder.
Yeah, Northern Thunder. What did I say? Northern Lights?
Yeah.
Northern Thunder. On Northern Thunder, it's like, I think it's a guitar and then there's like a banjo, right, that's playing at the same time, and they highlight each other. So yeah, he's really good with the production in that way, where even if it's multiple instruments, it's still sparse. Like it's still just one doing a little bit extra that the other one isn't. Like he's really trying to make it as skeletal as possible, but it's not boring. Because my issue with, so this is, the reason why Adriel is so surprised by me liking the slow songs, guitar-led slow songs, and the like, is because I think when people do it, and we did it, I think it was a previous album that we just reviewed, they just do the guitar, nothing else. Right? They don't try to add an extra element. They're not trying to change the vocal pattern or anything like that. When it comes to like Northern Thunder, I got the I got the guitar, I got the banjo, then he's changing his voice is going from like, one register to a next. He's holding notes and stuff like that. Like there's more things happening. Like there's a lot of things, even though if you probably look at this like in the DAW, there's probably very, very few things actually plugged in.
Yeah.
But there's enough things where it's like kind of like scattered toys trying to like put them together and let them fall, put them together and let them fall, versus people who are just playing with one toy. You know what I mean? So that's why I do like the Zach Bryan songs. I do think Zach Bryan's music is pretty good. How do you feel about the features? Which is your favorite? Do you have a least favorite feature, actually? Because this is something that I was thinking about when I was listening to this.
I actually like this album a lot. Where thinking of the least favorite feature.
Yeah.
Okay. So my least favorite feature is probably Better Days with John Mayer.
Me too. I thought so too.
I just feel like I didn't need John Mayer. I didn't like, and I still like the song because I think Zach Bryan is good.
Yeah.
But that's one where I also watched them like make the record and everything and watch the whole videos. And I was just kind of like, I actually get it because it is John Mayer. Like, anyone who's playing guitar and singing at Zach Bryan's age,
Yeah.
John Mayer is an influence on them.
Yeah,
That's just beside the point. But I didn't need it. Didn't need it. And the fact that it was a single,
Yeah.
it was like, this album is strong enough where that doesn't hurt the project. But I think in another situation where the album was not as strong as it is, we would be like, making that your single was a big flub. Yeah. But I think because the album is strong enough, we're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. But I think in another situation, we would have been a little iffy on that.
Yeah, I think John Mayer. I brought it up because I knew you were gonna say John Mayer, so that's why I'm like, I'm gonna mention it. I think that first of all, it's a little bit duplicative to have him, and then also, I feel like didn't need him. Like, you're doing so well by yourself. A lot of Zach Bryan's music is featureless, like a lot of it.
Yeah.
Right. So I was a little bit surprised actually to see like there was like this, I think 5 features on this. And I think that the one with John Mayer is just like, I get it. I get why he's there. But I would have preferred the Dolly Parton idea to the John Mayer idea.
Yeah. And I think we're in a situation where because he creates so much of this music himself, it's like, what are you asking John Mayer to do?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I think Zach Bryan probably sings better than John Mayer, if I'm being honest. So it's like, what are you really asking John Mayer to do here? John Mayer's obviously talented and can do all these things himself, but it's like, I don't need you here. We're not creating a song I couldn't create on my own. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if John Mayer is the person to do that for Zach Bryan, because I think the talent he's showed me is I want to see him create a song that he wouldn't create otherwise. Like, I think Sandpaper with Bruce Springsteen, I don't love that feature either, but I think Bruce's voice adds a different element to that song that Zach's doesn't. But I would love to see him work with someone, and maybe it's a country artist who's a little to the left, like Shabuzi or Jelly Roll, or maybe it's someone who's not country at all, like a James Blake or a Tame Impala, and does something different. But I think that every feature on here, other than Nolene Hoffman.
What about a Beyoncé feature? That would be crazy.
That could be something.
Because she's already traversed into this lane.
You know what? So I guess we have done 3 country albums this year if you count Beyonce.
Yeah.
But I think hearing this project and hearing Beyonce's project, like, it would be a different voice for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't see him making Beyonce's brand of country. And maybe that's what you're saying. Like, that would be a cool...
That'd be a very interesting collab. Because I think his style of country right now is very rugged.
Yes.
Very rugged.
You don't say.
Yeah, extremely rugged. Very down to earth. And Beyonce, extremely polished. Larger than life. So I just think that combo would be really interesting to see. Like, I think that if, I'm just theorizing, like a song where like she is playing like the woman, like make it like this, you know, with his excellent songwriting.
Like a duet, yeah.
Yeah, but make her like the woman and make him like the dude, and like there's some sort of interaction between the two. But allow Beyonce to be like the larger than life figure and allow Zach to be the rugged, kind of downtrodden, fuck everything type of dude. I think that would be interesting.
I hate to be that fan, but I feel like the way you put it is actually correct, where she's the shiny country, and he's the rugged country. And I don't know if I want to see those two go together. I actually maybe more want to see Beyonce get rugged, than him going to her world.
No, well, Beyonce's a brilliant singer.
Yes.
So I just bring her to the Zach Bryan world.
Yes.
Where the sound is more Zach Bryan, but I'm thinking like with her character in the song would be like the person
bring some life to it.
Yeah, versus Zach Bryan's like constant what is his songwriting style? I guess like contemplative also, but it's again rugged.
He's more like disgruntled, but optimistic. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you have that uncle who's like always complaining, but will once in a while throw in, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, everything's gonna be all right.
Yeah, like, that's Zach Bryan. It's like disgruntled, but still somehow optimistic. I want to talk about the name of the project before we get into the cover and how this is for his career.
Wait, one more thing.
Go ahead.
Your favorite feature? No. Because I asked you about your least favorite.
Nolene Hoffman.
It's not even close.
Not even. Like, this is probably, I guess, the 8th review in a row right now where you said something that has been written on my page.
Yeah.
When you started with talking about Purple Gas, like, I had a whole section about it. I said, Demar got it covered. Demar has it covered. Yeah, to me, that's easily the best one on here. Is there a different one that you think of?
No, I think his work, that's why I brought up the Beyonce thing. I want to hear him with more women.
Yes, I agree with that.
I think that he's like so all encompassing as like a dude character in his music. Like you don't need any other dudes. Like you don't need any other dudes. Yeah, you got covered. Everything. Like if you want to be a country star, right, and like the body of it, he literally was in the Navy. Mm-hmm. He drinks beer, actually carries around a real hammer with him, right, and is depressed. Okay, you're doing country.
What more do you need?
Exactly. You don't need any other dudes. Get women in your music. I think it would be way more interesting. And that song, Purple Gas, is a great example of it, right? Just like the difference in personality, different vocalization. Like there's so much more juice that can come from adding women to your music. Whereas somebody like John Mayer, even though extremely prolific, great artist, etc. Not adding much. It's not really additive. Or maybe it's additive, but with women, it's multiplication. Right?
Yes.
And I think you want more multiplication to your music.
I think about the title of this project, The Great American Bar Scene. And the thing is, the character that he's playing, it reminded me of someone like a 21 Savage.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why. I think this, I don't want to say a character he's playing because this is actually his life, and I think it's more authentic than just a character. But I think this idea of him being the rugged country star and all the adjectives he's used to describe him fit the title of The Great American Bar Scene. I think context free, if you see the name of that project, you're like, who the hell's project is this? And I think that this person, this persona, this character that he has is so embedded in us as being authentic that we don't even question the name. And that's why I want to highlight it, because it's like naming your project The Great American Bar Scene is a crazy name.
Yeah.
But I think that, again, it's like, he believes that. I buy him when he says The Great American Bar Scene. I buy that to him. It's a Great American Bar Scene. And why I compared him to 21 Savage, 21 Savage's biggest single from his last project is Red Rum, which we know what Red Rum stands for. And to have your big single just be murder.
Yeah.
It's like we've bought into you being this cold-blooded killer, shooter for years. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like something that he's done well in his career, where it just doesn't feel like some kind of crazy left turn to call the project The Great American Bar Scene.
Yeah, and I think it also projects his confidence in his music, because naming yourself or naming your album Great Anything, you gotta back it up, right? He's gotten to even the point where the first song, quote unquote song, Lucky Enough, is a poem. Right? So I think that there is also a confidence of self of like, I'm making great music, to even have the word great in any of your album titles. And I think when he's, including a poem and, the cover basically is just people hanging out at bars, right? Vibing out. These also old pictures, right? To reinforce the oldness and everything happening in his music. Is smart, but it's also like, I feel like there's a lot of understanding, or at least like projection of like, I'm making good, like great work, that I'm going to make something that feels historical, something that feels super artistic, again, putting a poem at the beginning of the entire project. Like, I think that there's at least an understanding or projection of like, I'm an artiste.
I think that comes from the authenticity of it. I think if you look at this cover, seems like a rundown bar. Like, I'm assuming this jukebox needs a couple of slaps before you can get it working. And if you compare this to other artists, not even just in country, but it's in any genre, of when they talk about a bar or a club, it's a luxurious bar, it's a luxurious club, it's Nobu. Like, that's the idea of it. And I think for him to still be rooted in this, no, this is my bar, this is how we get down.
Yeah.
It's giving Fast and Furious meets Killer Mike in terms of focusing on family.
Indeed.
and I think that's a big part of why I like this cover a lot, is him selling this idea of like, because my family's here, because this is my people, this is my town, this is my group.
This is their stories.
This makes this great. And I think that's something that we're clearly bought into all the way. One thing I wanted to highlight, because in the comments, you let me know where I am on this. Is I thought about Taylor Swift's project, and her crazy title, "The Tortured Poets Department: The Anthology."
Yeah,
and we talked about her naming her project that, trying to give artistes, right? And I think that how this project is, it gave artistes without feeling as try hard,
right.
And I think what Taylor did was like, okay, you want to be an artist so bad, and I
Also making it in black and white.
And why I thought of that is because you mentioned the poem. And I think that Zach Bryan is more show, don't tell. It's like, okay, I'm just going to do what I do. You guys interpret it how you want, but I'm going to show you that I'm an artist. I'm not going to keep telling you that I'm an artiste. And that's something that has been a through line throughout this whole rollout, throughout this whole project. And then I thought about the square inside a square for the cover. That's something Taylor had
a little
as
Kanye.
well.
A little Kanye.
This is giving a little Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Yeah.
In terms of the colors. But I think that what this cover shows for me in terms of what it means for his career and him going forward is I think that this kind of character that he is / playing isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to be one of those artists who, if at 28 we're buying into this, he's rugged. He doesn't care about the flashing lights. He likes the bars. If we can believe all this about him at 28, we're going to believe it at 38.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I think that bodes well for the future of his career. So to me, this is a plus.
Yeah, I do think it is a plus too. I think that it's like, if his career is a train, it's like a runaway train, and we just got on literally the last car. We're like, yo, we're in there. We're in there. I think that basically, for me, this is my first like true like listen through on a Zach Bryan album. I'm like, I'm in. Like it was able to grip me, even though this is his fifth album, I think.
Yeah.
And the one that came out last year was like the one, really, that it seemed like. So I think that, I think this album is great for his career because to grip me, somebody who is not a country fan, in my adult life, in my childhood, I was indoctrinated. But in my adult life, not really listening to country like that very frequently. For him to pull me in and for him to get me to betray what everybody thinks is my sensibilities.
Screaming.
Of slow music and guitar slow music. And for me to actually be like, yo, this is actually sick. Is a big deal to me. Right? And I think this is a big deal for other people overall. I feel like you can draw in a lot of people with a lot of these songs. 28, Boons. I don't. Maybe Boons is just to me. I'm like, Boons is the shit.
Boons is a banger. Boons is a banger.
So I think it's really good overall for his career. Again, the train is already run away, and we just got on. We were like, you know how the handles are on the back of the last train car?
Yeah.
We just grabbed onto those.
No, we're riding dirty right now. Like 100%.
Okay, so is it a no skips though? That's an interesting question for this album.
I kind of think it is.
Yeah?
I kind of think it is.
For an hour, no skips.
I think it is. I think that this is one of those projects where every song on its own, maybe not no skips, but in terms of a cohesive project and listening to it as a whole, did you skip it while listening? I didn't skip anything while listening to it.
Yeah.
So to me, this is the definition of no skips, because to me, a no skips is more how it lives as a project.
Yeah.
And I think this does all it needed to do. So for me, it's a no skips.
Yeah, I would say, it's technically a no skips. You're going to play it from the beginning. I can't really see a reason why you would skip a song. There isn't any song that's egregious, right?
It's maybe a no skips, but is it a song album you'll finish? That's a great question. Because respectfully, you are not listening to every single one of these songs. That's where I'm at, where it's like, I might not finish the project.
Yeah, but I'll stop it.
I'll pick up where I left off and just finish. Another time, 8 hours later.
Yeah.
But in terms of finishing it all the way through, I think it being an hour and 3 minutes, like 19,
it's also 19 songs.
19 songs, like that is the only drawback I have in a big way from this project is this project didn't need to be 19 songs and did not need to be an hour. There's a 45-minute version of this project that is just as good as this one.
Yeah, and also that version probably would also loop.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like this was, because of how skeletal everything is, very loopable. I feel like you should be able to do that. So I feel like that is just like a little, I would say, for example, Charlie XCX's album loops perfectly every time. I think that this is just like something that could have been, but did not.
Yes.
Right? The length is an issue. Like, just the songs are good. The sound is similar. There's definitely variations, right? But when you're at song 15, or even so you're at songs 14, 15, and 16, it feels like, you know, when you're having, like, you're eating like dinner and you're like, just a couple more bites, you know, just like a couple more.
You making sure you finish your food?
Yeah, just like a couple more. Just gotta get them in there. It's like the food's still good though, but I'm full.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think that's a little bit of a problem where the curation of which songs get selected, that needs to be refined. But all the songs are good.
Yes.
It's just that there are more good songs. I mean, there are more great songs that we would just like a higher concentration of.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. Where are you in terms of copying this as a vinyl?
I think maybe, yeah, I think so, yeah.
You like surprise yourself.
Yeah. I think so. It would be my first ever country album.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a cop. Because I don't think I was getting the Beyoncé one.
No.
I'm trying, I guess, well, Hard Day's Night by the Beatles is more of like a...
I wouldn't count that, yeah.
Really. So, yeah, Rubber Soul, sort of. But this would be my first one, like, strictly, like, this is a country album.
Yeah.
So that's why you kind of caught me, like, oh, maybe.
Because those are more folky, indie rockish.
Yeah.
This would be a vinyl cop for me, too, honestly. This would be my first country album as well.
Yeah.
But this is a good project, man. Like, I'll say, like, when I texted you about what album we're doing, I really wanted to ask you, are we doing something other than Zach Bryan?
Really?
That was the coding in that you didn't read. I was like, are we doing Zach Bryan? That's what I meant to say. But I said, maybe I'll just like see if he has anything other suggestions.
No. I see even in the messaging, this is the back rooms where I'm like, I think it's time to make our Zach Bryan debut. I did say that.
And that's why I laughed, because I had that thought before I texted you, and I was like, let me just text him. I was like, oh, Hail Mary. Like,
so I'll say for the Zach Bryan fans and Zach Bryan, we did not plan on being here.
Yes.
But we are here, and we like it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, Adriel, the moment everybody has been waiting for, I think, shout out to the new people listening to Album Mode, because I know there's going to be new people listening to this shit.
Yeah.
So, shout out to you, Adriel, the moment everybody's been waiting for. What is your score?
Zach Bryan, the Great American Bar Scene, 7.5 from me.
Okay.
I like this project a lot. After the first listen, maybe halfway through the first listen, I was like, I'm fucking with this. And I think that he's someone who I feel like he's unique in this space, not just in the country, but in pop, where it's like, I don't see him getting worse. I only see him getting better. I don't see him changing up his flow. I don't know if he needs to change up his flow.
Yeah.
So I like this project a lot. What I think what holds it back from getting to the upper echelon,
it's long as fuck.
How long it is. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that the way the project is, it is a fun listen, but it being so long hurts the project. But I think he's great lyrically, maybe one of the best and musicians lyrically we've reviewed all year. I think production-wise, from the standpoint of he's doing a lot of these things himself, he ranks high in that.
Yeah.
And then just like the theme of his music, like, I'm not big Americana. America is the best place ever. That's not my vibe. But I think that I can get into that energy when I'm listening to him. And I think because he brings me there where I'm like, I could vote red. I could put a flannel on. He gives me that.
I could put a flannel on. I don't know about the second. I don't know about the other part.
No, I wouldn't. But he makes me feel like I could. You know that artist where you're like, maybe he's not so bad. Like, he's the type of artist that gives you that energy where you're like, maybe I do like Homelander. So I think because he's able to convert someone as blackety as me into feeling like that, that shows how great he is. So 7.5 for me. Okay. One of my favorite albums so far this year.
Okay. So for me, Zach Bryan's The Great American Bar Scene. This is an 8 out of 10. Okay. I'm taken aback by how much I like a country album, genuinely. I think that the songwriting is fantastic. The production, I like, despite everybody's fucking conceptions of me. I like the production.
People can change.
Exactly. I think that the production is really good. I like the way instruments overlap but don't contradict each other. They don't feel like they're stacked on top of each other, but they feel like they're in complement to each other. I use that example of the toys, right? You're using all the toys separately, right? Sometimes in conjunction with each other, but when you have 8 toys, you only have 2 hands, right? And I think that he is able to use the 2 hands to use a bunch of different toys in concert with each other. I think that pretty much you cannot really get worse from here as him. Like, the only thing that could happen to him is like his pen can just get worse. Like, he just becomes like a worse songwriter. But
somehow,
as you age, typically you become better at songwriting. You know, your practice of writing songs becomes better. You know, you learn new tricks. You learn new sequences that you can do. You know, I talked about the songs with the vignettes, right? And there was even like the half rhymes, doing half rhymes, which is very much like a rapper thing to do, not really a country thing to do. So I think that it's really good. It's a little bit too long. Bruce Springsteen doesn't have to be here. John Mayer doesn't have to be here. Get more women on it. I think it would sound so good with more women.
yeah. I think he was serving the white men fan base. He's like, listen, not enough white men on here.
There's white women. There's white women that just get the white women.
Thank you for watching. That's a clip right there. Demar just saying, get the white women. Get the white women. I was waiting for you to say that. I feel like you were balling up for like past 30 years.
No.
Now you found
30 years was when? I don't know, 29 years.
Get it out of your system. Thank you for watching us.
Oh my God.
Leave us a rating and a review on all your podcast platforms. 5 stars, not a single star less. Find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod, on Twitter at Album Mode Pod, on TikTok at Album Mode Pod, on Instagram, on YouTube. Watch us on YouTube, like this video, leave us a comment, and of course, make sure you're subscribed. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.